Hi, hello, and welcome to today's YouTube video on Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, we're making a Final Fantasy XIV video. And this is going to be some tips, tricks, whatever. I think I got about 6-ish tips for you guys today. This is mainly going to be geared for newer players. As a full disclaimer, I'm still learning as well. I plan on finishing the Stormblood post-patch today, and then hopefully Shadowbringer starting this week as well, depending on everything that's going on. So I'm still learning with everybody else, but with that being said, I was ahead of some of the people in my friend group, and they found some of this information to be useful, so hopefully you can find it useful as well. I know it's helped me, helped some other people. Maybe it can help you too. But in an effort to increase watch time beyond a minute 30 to 2 minutes, let's just get right into the first tip, and hopefully I haven't lost your attention yet. Okay, ready? Perfect. First tip. For the first tip, we're going to start out with something that's obvious, but you might not really understand its importance until it's too late, and that's going to be to touch every blue crystal thing you find, specifically the Aetheryte Crystals. So, the game will introduce these big blue crystals, which are the Aetheryte Crystals, that you can attune to, and all the major ones you can fast travel to. Most of the major zones will have at least one located somewhere in that zone, so you should immediately go attune to these when you first get into a zone. There's also one in all the major cities. You get the idea to fast travel points. Now, that's pretty handy, isn't it? Yes, but it's also important to get all the little ones in the main cities as well. While you can't directly fast travel to the little ones, let's say you want to go to the Lancers Guild in Old Gridania. You can teleport to the big main crystal in New Gridania, and if you have it tuned to the little one by the Lancers Guild, you can travel to it from there. This is extremely useful when you're just starting out because you'll be going around your main starting city quite a bit, and the more crystals you have, the easier it is to get around your main city, especially if you're in a more complicated city, say like Limsa Lominsa or Ul'dah. It's a lot easier that way. So this next point could be an entire video in and of itself, but I want to discuss some general settings and some of the main ones that helped me along the way. Now, there's an actual metric shit ton of settings in this game, so this is kind of just to prompt you to dig around in the settings and discover what works best for you. But here are some recommendations I have to start you off. So the first thing is some targeting settings. Personally, I did not like the way the targeting was out the box, so I changed my target to a cone. So that way I'm not targeting enemies that are behind me in the middle of Africa or wherever the fuck the tab target thinks I want to be looking at. This setting will keep your ability to cycle through enemies with the tab, but it is limited to a cone in front of you, in which all reality, I don't know why you would want to target anybody behind you or to the far right or to the far left of you when you're cycling through anyway. So I feel like this should just be default, but it's not. And if it's bugging you like it was bugging me, you can change that setting. Along with the cone, I personally recommend binding the ability to target the closest enemy to you with shift and tab. This has helped me both a lot in PvP and PvE. So for example, in PvE, it's a safe way to target a new ad if, say, the one you're casting on dies, and you can target the closest one to you without fear of pulling another mob that's often Timbuktu, because the tab targeting sometimes just goes off the rails for no apparent reason. Now for PvP, well, if you've played PvP, you know PvP is just a chaotic shitstorm of effects, so sometimes it's nice to just be able to shift tab. You know you've selected the closest enemy to you, and then you just start blasting. Sometimes you don't have time to think and click and cycle through. Shift tab makes it easy, still putting damage down. Now, speaking of a shitstorm of effects, you can actually turn down other players' effects in the settings. This I did not know, but I think this is very important. You can choose whether other players' effects are completely off, or you can just have them set to be limited, which is what I personally have selected, because I still like to see some of it, but it's just a lot. Now, like I said earlier, there's so many options in this game. I could do a whole video on it, from things like changing PvP team colors, targeting the closest NPC with a key command, so when you're in a busy crowd, you can select the actual NPC, not a random person. UI customization, the list goes on and on. You get the point. If you want to see more things that I found to be helpful in the settings, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make another video on that. But until then, take a break from your MSQs and killing primals or whatever it is you're doing, and go get your settings sorted out however you want. You'll thank me later. Hello, you're probably wondering why you're seeing my face in the middle of this video and not some sweet PvP action. That is because it is my opportunity now to shill to you and ask for likes, comments, and subscriptions. I do not have a sponsor. As you can tell, I don't have many subscribers, therefore there is no monetary value in paying me to say good things about your products. So I must promote myself. If you like what you're seeing, like, comment, subscribe. I'll put socials somewhere. I'll put my Twitch stream somewhere. You get the idea at this point. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up so we can get back to the tips and tricks. Thanks for being here. Have a good day. Thank you, oh gracious sponsor. What a handsome looking man. Now, back to the tips, and this one's going to be tip 3, which seems like a no-brainer, but you would be surprised. And that's going to be to put the sprint button and limit break button on your hotbar. Now, why you should have sprint on your hotbar seems pretty self-explanatory. I really don't. Just put it on your hotbar, okay? It's important. Now, limit break is something I personally messed up all the way up until I was around level 50. I'm ashamed to admit this. Now, both of these can be found in the actions and traits section under general, and this is what they look like. Now, like I said, I didn't have limit break on my hotbar until I was level 50, which is way past when you should definitely have limit break on your hotbar. But a nice person in my chat, twitch.tv/Santiago, told me about it, and then I was enlightened. Now, I won't explain in depth what limit break does, but put it on your hotbar before you're level 50 and you're in a dungeon frantically trying to find it through all the tabs, and then everybody's yelling at you to limit break because you have to kill the final boss because everybody died. Put it on your hotbar, okay? Thank you. This next one is a big one, and you may have been told about it, or you may not have, but either way, you'll be glad you know it now. What I'm referring to is the handy dandy guide on GamerScape.com. And this specific guide I'm talking about will be linked in the description down below, but it is their progression and locked content guide. There are a lot of things that will be very useful to you that are not a part of the main scenario questline, such as Palace of the Dead, which is good for alt leveling, and unlocking Glamour, which is the transmog system in this game, which everybody wants to look good. Now, this guide will let you know at what level certain things are unlocked, along with a link to the guide for whatever it is you're trying to do. So say the Glamour quest, there'll be a link to their guide on unlocking Glamours, and it'll let you know also what level to do it. You get the point. I highly recommend checking back to this guide often to make sure you haven't missed anything like super crucial, like your chocobo mount. You can skip that. It's not mandatory. The game will try and tell you, but just refer back to this guide often. Now, this is a hot little bonus tip for you because it's not stated in the guide, but it is part of progression, and that is to do your class quests or job quests or whatever you want to call them. Just do them. These are important, especially early on, because all of the base or Realm Reborn jobs turn into their true jobs, I guess you could say, at level 30. So, example would be Archer turns to Bard, Thermitage, whatever you want to call it, turns to Black Mage. Either way, if I see you level 30 or above, and you do not have your job Soulstone, I will judge you. So do your class quests. That leads us into tip number 5, and this is one I'm still working on, but it's very important, and that's to not be afraid of the community. So what I mean by that is, if it's your first time doing something, type that in the chat. It's your first time healing, let the group know. So that way the tank doesn't do a fat ass pull wall to wall that you're most definitely not ready for, and then you wind up panicking and you wipe. Is it your first time tanking? Let the group know. Simple. People in this community are generally, and I put that in quotations, more nice and understanding if you communicate with them. Now, you will still run into assholes, yes, but effective communication can help cut down on the stress, so maybe people won't snap on you. Another thing is, if you don't want to talk in chat, that is fine, but please at least read chat periodically. Alright, this next tip is the last one and probably the simplest tip, but it is also probably the most important, and that is to take your time. Now, I know you probably want to get to endgame and run savage raids and all this crazy stuff, but it takes time to get there. I started playing sometime last year before they reworked everything, and I only made it to around like the level 37 mark before I stopped. I came back about 2 months ago because some friends were showing interest, and I figured I'd give it another shot. And since then, I've put in a good few hundred hours, and I plan to put in a few hundred more probably a lot of hundreds more, and that's thanks to, I would say, not rushing it like I was before. The point being, take everything at whatever pace is good for you. I'll be honest, A Realm Reborn sucks pretty bad. It's not that great. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's not that great. And I can see why most people don't make it through. But if your thought is, I'm going to power through the story and not care about anything else, you'll get burned out fast. Unlike other certain MMOs where the goal is to burn through old content that's now basically useless as fast as possible so you can be yelled at by some guy about fucking up his mythic key, even though it wasn't really your fault, it was the other guy's fault, and now everybody's yelling at each other. This game is very story driven, and old content stays relatively relevant. So really, there is no rush to burning through content. You gotta stop and take in the nuances, you know, feel, live in the world a little bit. So go visit the Golden Saucer or watch a legit band of cat girls putting on a performance in New Gridania, all with different instruments and a backup dancer. Or if you're feeling brave enough, you can even go to Limsa Lominsa and just sit there at that Aetheryte stone for a little bit, and I'm sure you will see some very interesting things that will keep you entertained for a while, and they will help break up the monotony of MSQ after MSQ after MSQ. Alright, so there it is. That's my 6-ish tips to new players for Final Fantasy. Did you find any of these useful? Did you find none of them useful? Do you have any tips of your own you would like to share your infinite mentor wisdom with the community? Let me know in the comments down below. Once again, shameless plug to like, comment, subscribe. Socials will be on the screen. Also, twitch.tv. Follow there. You can watch me do Shadowbringers whenever I finally get to it. But that has been all I have to say about this subject. I'm stalling because I do not have an outro. I should have one by now, but I do not. So until then, peace. Finger gun. I still don't know what to do about an outro.